this is the final model of the Silver Cloud. Car number dates it between production between December 64 and April of 65, and this car was purchased new in Scotland in March of 1965. It stayed in Scotland and was serviced there, and then in 1974 it made its way to Ontario, and it was driven in Ontario and maintained there for about 10 years, and then it came over to Vancouver, and it was serviced by Carter Motor Cars in Vancouver. They were a Rolls and Ferrari dealer, and then it was purchased in 1987 by a prominent hotelier in Lake Louise, which is where I am now. So he's owned the car for the last 20 years, since 1987. He had an earlier Cloud that wasn't a good car, and he was looking for a good one, and he saw this one at Carter and talked to the old school Rolls mechanic there, and he said, well, if you can ever buy this car, this is the good one. And he told the owner to give him a call if it was ever for sale, and a few years later in '87 he got that call and he bought the car and took it to Lake Louise. Since '87 it has been maintained by Heinz Oldenthal in Banff, who is I guess he's the resident Mercedes-Benz 600 guru, who's an old school European car guy. So looking inside the car, we see that the car was sold new to A.D. Fraser Limited, a Bentley dealer in Glasgow, and presumably it stayed in Glasgow until 1974 when it came to Mississauga. So renovating anything in these cars is incredibly expensive. I would say to do the interior of this car, if it was beyond repair, and you needed new to refinish all the wood, carpet, leather, headliner, rubbers, etc., would probably be $40,000. So what very, 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 very few people would do that on a standard body Silver Cloud. I mean, maybe an R-Type Continental that's worth $700,000. So what you normally find is you find the interiors over time renovated to some degree, often badly, often on a budget. So when I look at these cars, I look, the best possible case would be that nothing was ever done to it, because redoing everything to the factory standards is incredibly expensive, difficult, and impossible. In some cases, like the leather, where you can't tan the hides using the process they used to because of environmental reasons. Okay, so we've got this beautiful light blue. It's like a light blue-gray interior. We've got some wonderful patina. It was soft leather that's never been ruined by a cheap leather paint. That if it was applied and is applied in many cases on these cars, just ruins the leather because it becomes non-porous, and you basically turn the original leather into plastic. And so this one has some signs of gentle use, but no major problems. And we have the center armrests here, which are in good shape, and the chrome mechanisms, which are still good and operate freely. In the passenger seat, we've got some a little bit of stitching that's come up, but that's an easy repair. We've got some, again, light patina on the door armrests. The worst thing about the interior in this car is, thankfully, only the carpet on the passenger side, for whatever reason, is worn through. An easy fix, actually. If you're going to do anything to this car in the interior, the carpet's probably the easiest thing. The wood door caps are in excellent shape. There's no evidence that they've ever been redone, but they're basically in perfect shape. The interior chrome is in perfect shape. You see the little ashtray there. These face level air vents would have been come out in the Silver Cloud 2, and they're retained here. And we've got the glove box, and in the glove box we can see we've got a bunch of cassette tapes, and the owner's manual lives in there. Instruments are all in beautiful condition and work perfectly. We see the mileage of 52,196, believed to be 152,000 miles on this car. We see the original radio. There are some of the knobs that are broken on that. This used to be a cubby hole, but now it is a modern radio, and the speakers are let into these panels here, which are nicely covered up, and on the rear parcel shelf. This, of course, is an automatic transmission. It's a GM Hydromatic gearbox. And apart from this neat installation of the aftermarket radio, which should have been circa 1985, then nothing else has been modified in the wood, and we can see the removable ashtray and the shelf in the interior. The head visors and the mechanisms are all in place and in good shape. And looking at the headliner, which can just about always in these cars is badly stained, and here it is almost perfect. Critically around the rear window area, where the seal usually goes in the rear window, and then the water leaks in and then destroys the wood, and then takes the headliner with it. And here we don't see any of that. Just a slight markings from the bows, and it looks like it's been touched up over time, but it's actually very minor. And then we have the pull straps and the rear quarter windows. The bench seat in the rear again has characterized it as a lovely patina. There are some scratches in the leather, and those could actually be just touched up, and they'll go away. You don't have to repaint the whole seat to get rid of those. They can be selectively touched up, and that's not an expensive job. And then we can see the door cappings in the rear as well. So anyway, it's certainly a very lovely motor car in every way. We've got electric windows. We've got terrific switchgear, little indicators everywhere. Some very clever touches. Here's all the electric windows, and the armrest even has a couple different positions, which I've never seen before. Okay, so in the rear, we've got, of course, the picnic tables, which work beautifully, and just some very minor crazing of the varnish, and otherwise in perfect shape. The rear carpets are actually pretty good. I would just match the front carpets and install that one piece and leave everything alone. We have the rear speakers, which are, I'd probably get rid of those. They don't help the car. But otherwise it's untouched in the rear, and the rear carpet's actually in pretty good shape. The doors all close with a nice click, and if the doors were fitting improperly, you would see all kinds of scuff marks in the paint where the door hits its striker, and that's not the case in any of this. All the doors fit extremely well, with no effort, and with good shut lines. And walking around the car, we have all the original lights. Again, all the chrome is in nice shape. In the trunk, we've got the original matting, some light staining, and then under here, of course, you've got the access to the tools. There's some of the tools there, not all of them, and access to various fuel tank and so forth in the truck. Okay, and around the front again, we can take a look at, like I said, that the worst part about the car is probably this little piece of carpet, but this piece of carpet can be easily replaced. It probably costs you about $1,000 to make a correct replacement for that. And the service and spares on these old cars is actually pretty good. They would have made about maybe 15,000 of these in all the variants. There were standard cars like this. There were also some Bentley. There was a Bentley version of it, which is identical, except instead of calling it a Silver Cloud, they called it an S1, S2, or S3. There were some coach-built cars. I think only one was on a Bentley chassis, and all the rest were on the Rolls-Royce chassis. But this design was so well resolved and so popular, it kind of put the coach builders out of business, because this was just about better looking than any of the coach-built cars. There would have been maybe 14,000 of the standard cars, and then I'd have to go look at the records here, and I will put that in my written summary, but probably another 1,000 of the rest of the cars, for about 15,000 of the cars total. So, in summary, it is an honest driver with a history of sympathetic owners, with a car that is structurally sound, that has never had any invasive metalwork, that has been maintained throughout its life. It's a car with a repaint that's about 20 years old, that would be good driver quality. Under very close examination, you can see some of the shrinking marks, and what happens there is that to do a concours job, you need to let the car sit for 2 or 3 months in primer, so that all the solvents evaporate. And if you paint it too quickly, what happens is it's perfectly smooth when you paint it, but what happens is some of the solvents evaporate after, and then you can see some of the sanding marks. So if you get it in the right light, you'd never photograph, but you can see some marks in it, and that's the difference between a $7,000 or $8,000 paint job and a $20,000 paint job. And so, but from anything more than a few inches away, it presents beautifully. It's got a couple of rock chips. The windscreen is recent, and that's an expensive piece. But in summary, it's an honest driver with a good chassis and good structure, good mechanics, a car that can be driven and enjoyed. And it's at an extremely reasonable price. It's also quite an event to take the car out, and it attracts a huge amount of positive attention. It's been hard to do a video just because I get interrupted so many times by people looking at it, and it's a real joy to drive. And so for a reasonable outlay, you can have a really wonderful, iconic, classic car that you can get some use out of and take for outings and really enjoy. So come to Lake Louise, enjoy one of the most beautiful places in the world, and come and collect your Rolls-Royce and drive it home. Thank you very much for viewing Lawrence Romanosky.